Howdy class, welcome to today's lecture. So in this module we're going to discuss the concept of youth and adult partnerships within successful youth programs. So adults often state that teens can gain valuable skills from leadership experiences and perceive these opportunities primarily benefiting young people. However, the research that we look at tells us that youth-adult partnerships, bringing together the strengths of young people and adults in shared work projects, not only benefit organizations and adults by creating stronger and more vibrant programs, but also can positively influence communities as well. The most effective youth-adult partnerships are not random happenings, but again, intentionality plays a major part, in which that with these partnerships, they're mutually beneficial to all those involved. With the project or activity and involving a commitment to shared resources, training opportunities, and ongoing communications, you can create a successful youth-adult partnership that's beneficial for all parties. So today, let's take a look at some characteristics of and what is youth voice. So encouraging youth voice is a key to successful partnerships. It is important to involve youth in all aspects of your program, from the creation or design through evaluation and reporting. So you see here 12 characteristics of quality programming that include youth voice. Now there are a couple ways that you need to consider when you talk about youth partnerships in terms of programming or designing a program. So the first is to include youth into the entire planning and production stage. Youth may play a role in determining what the overall concepts will be, where they will take place, what supplies they may need. And the second is more of a secondary capacity. In this scenario, the initial requirements are set by the adult or advisor, but within the scope of a program or activity, the youth can decide what they will do and how they would do it. For example, a time slot may exist in your daily planner for your curriculum in which you can allow youth to decide which of the activities they wish to participate in, what games they'll play or create. I often, in my face-to-face class, talk about this as a canvas painting. So if you can visualize, you as the administrator are the one who provide the board and the frame. You provide the structure. But everything that happens on top of the canvas, the painting, the colors, the design, everything in between is determined by youth. So I hope maybe that visualization will work. So successful partnerships are never a one-way street. When you incorporate young people into the decision-making, planning, programming stages, yes, it can be complicated. Sometimes it can be frustrating for both the adults and the youth alike. Some of the obstacles lie in attitudes about youth and their abilities, or conversely, the stereotypes or impression that young people have about adults, and the impressions and abilities, stereotypes that adults have about youth. So this idea from the adult perspective is called adultism. Adultism is defined as the prejudice and accompanying systematic discrimination against young people. So while there are obstacles with youth-adult partnerships, some of them are pragmatic, such as trying to find a time to meet or securing transportation. Others have a more deeply rooted issues about prejudice and systemic discrimination that need to be addressed. And adultism is that main issue that you must overcome. So in regards to adultism, there are ways to check your bias against it. The first step in checking that bias in an attempt to form a successful partnership is to examine how you feel about working with, trusting, and communicating with individuals who are often 2 or more decades younger than you in age. Or from the youth perspective, how do you feel about working, trusting, communicating with individuals that are often 2 or more decades older than you? So go through some of these sentences and see how you would agree or disagree with the following, such as young people should be seen and not heard, or speak only when spoken to. Young people have no place in adult society, or allowing young people to struggle or be unsuccessful is a learning experience. I'm pretty sure we've all heard that one before. So now I take you to this slide. And listed below are some various best practices related to working alongside youth. Your attitude about working with youth as partners towards a successful program will become evident when you employ some of these verbal and nonverbal communication examples. So, the flip side of what the last slide said, we can look at celebrating success, especially with all team members. We can listen to all facts before jumping to conclusions. We can expect youth to make their own decisions. And these are just some of the many that you should incorporate. I'll allow you to read through them and see how you can find opportunities to incorporate these in your programming. So the benefits of an engaging youth. In my opinion, the greatest thing about youth are their energy, their optimism, and their creativity. As an adult partner, you will get a front row seat to the show that is youth development. While youth and adult partnerships may not be the most efficient or simplest method for accomplishing goals of your youth serving organization, the benefits can far outweigh those challenges. So when you successfully partner with youth, they can bring new ideas and perspectives to the table that you may have never considered because they have a different point of view. So consider how strengthening youth partnerships strengthen the community. This is a great opportunity, in my opinion, to start thinking beyond just the scope of your program to, in fact, the impact of your program at the individual, the local, or potentially even state national level. Making it work for adults. As there are challenges potentially with youth partnerships, consider these following guidelines on how to recognize, treat, and what to expect from youth in your partnership. Recognize that youth partners can bring individual skills, interests, and perspectives to your shared work, and that, just like with adults, tasks appealing to some won't always appeal to others. For many youth, assuming a role with authority is new, and at first they may lack the knowledge to make themselves effective partners. Conversely, don't excuse all indiscretions just because they are young and perhaps inexperienced. And if you really look at this list, if you look at these points, isn't this just a list of how to treat people in general? Don't we all want to be respected of our time? Don't we all want to be treated as individuals? Don't we want people to take the time to explain to us what's going on when we don't understand? We want to be involved. We want to feel welcome. There's really not that much difference between working with youth sometimes and working with adults. There are challenges, yes, but basically, we're treating others like we want to be treated. So, here, take a look from making it work for youth from the youth perspective. Youth have a sincere desire to contribute as an equal partner, and adults need to feel the likewise. Both teens and adults should demonstrate through their actions and attitudes, but always find opportunities to allow youth to demonstrate their capabilities. One of the challenges for adults is potentially giving away the power or the decision making process within a program because they feel tied to the success or failure of a project. It's very difficult sometimes. Allow youth to show commitment. We all allow youth to show commitment. Adults need to see youth commitment to feel comfortable when relinquishing control. Remember how to speak with youth concerning feedback. As adults, we're quite used to critiquing each other's ideas. Just because they don't agree with a young person's decision doesn't mean that they're dismissing him or her. So you really need to consider about the impact of your words and how they affect someone who may not be used to hearing such critiques. Check your assumptions and stereotypes. Um, as adults see young people as energetic, they they sometimes see that as undependable or disinterested. While youth, on the other side, see adults as problem solvers, they may also see them as very controlling. Recognize partners as individuals. Whether young or old, we all have strengths and we all have room to grow. Practice good communication. It's easy for adults to interrupt, and that can be very discouraging to young people. Let them finish their ideas. They need to have the chance to speak in front of a group. They need to have the chance to share their ideas. While most everyone brings biases and preconceived ideas related to abilities and responsibilities with them, you need to look about how you can work through these critical issues toward success. All right, here's some ideas about recruiting and working with teens. Over the next two slides, I'll give you several points that you need to consider, and some of these you will have seen in your readings for this module. And if you've never tried to recruit workers or volunteers from the youth, it can be very challenging. And I can tell you now from firsthand experience, uh, I did not do many of these ideas, many of these concepts when I created my youth workforce in Parks and Recreation. I hired roughly 10 high school students to work as my athletic staff, and I just went and did it the way that I thought should have been handled. I didn't really consider the youth perspective and what might have made the position more attractive to them. Uh, I just put out there what I needed and hope for the best. So some things you need to think of when recruiting is looking at the job description, especially. Consider what the youth want from the job before you post it. Ideas like this could be their first job, this could be a gate to more successful employments in the future, but also it lets them know what about their commitment and their expectation, how much time. Um, think about the fact that teens within your program already might be the best source to bring in their friends to your program. So if you have someone who works for you who's a youth, uh, speak to them about encouraging some of their friends to apply. Youth generally like working with their friends, therefore, they're probably going to bring in people who work well with them. Promptly follow your recruitment with training. You don't need a large gap here. Teens can usually find new activities pretty quickly. So, as it says here, don't expect to recruit teens 1 month and train them 2 months later. And not only is the time frame important, but the quality of the training is important too. Um, when teens are empowered as leaders and not just serving, they tend to shine. This requires great training, including clear expectations, materials, and skill development. One of the things that I think I did well with my youth staff is building a relationship, getting to know the teens that you're working with and allow them to know you. Uh, Check in on them through phone calls or text, notes of appreciation, generally showing an interest in their life when not a lot of people do. Remember, their scope of impact, I should say, the people that they interact with on a daily basis generally are parents and teachers. So they don't have many adults that they're interacting with um, besides those two. So showing genuine care is a great way to build trust amongst the youth. And here are 4 other points. Uh, Help teens organize. They may not have had a lot of experience within organization, and showing them the skills to be successful is greatly important. Uh, you can also build strong relationships through non-judgmental communication. You can see here 3 different examples about what you could and should not say and do, and or what you should and should not do in terms of non-judgmental communication. Um, you should recognize and support their limitations. This may be the first job they've ever had, and they don't understand some of the requirements that go with it, or uh, how strict you are about certain rules, or what are the expectations. They may not understand their limitations as well. And of course, affirm and recognize. A little praise goes a long way. You should believe in them and know they can produce. You can communicate this belief through the words and behavior. You can be patient with them as they learn, but don't be afraid to give guidance to help them improve. Don't overpraise, as it can sound patronizing if out of proportion to their work, but find that appropriate medium. So here's the summary and the takeaways from our lecture. You've been introduced to the idea about youth partnerships and youth voice. For some, you may have never seen a program that has true equitable partnership between youth and adult. So it might be challenging in terms of your bias to successfully partner with youth in the future. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, it just means that you may need to work on your bias more. So here's the ladder of youth voice is modeled before you. And after today's lecture, can you see where you fit in? If you're already working in a youth development setting, where would you say that where would youth say that you fit in? Some tools have been provided in this module that can help you change your opinion of youth and the partnerships with them. So where do you see the need in your professional life to address issues? Now to the practicum. So for Module 5, I want you to find a TED Talk again of a video that's related to youth engagement. And I want you to submit 3 lessons that you learned that will guide your EOM assignment. So remember, your end of module curriculum project that you're working on right now, that you're probably wrapping up at this point, is can be guided by youth voice and youth engagement. So how do these 3 lessons that you learned from this TED Talk influence your curriculum? And you're into Module 5, I want you to design a specific activity, a new one, within your program or a partnership with others promoting youth voice and advocacy and engagement. So in Module 4, I gave you a template that I wanted you to use for that assignment. I would like you to use that template again for this assignment in EOM 5. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be glad to clear up any misunderstandings that you have. So as a reminder, with the appropriate planning, training, and attention, teenagers are incredibly valuable assets to most any program. Tapping into their energy and ideas does involve a great bit of time, But youth can be a powerful part of the program leadership when they're trained and supported in their role. So therefore, class, what is your role in youth voice and youth engagement? Thanks, and see you in the next lecture. Thanks, and see you in the next lecture.